The day we got kicked out didn't feel loud. It felt quiet. Too quiet. You're old enough now. Our foster guardian didn't yell. Didn't argue. He just stood near the doorway, arms folded, like he'd already made the decision long before we heard it. 17 is close enough, he added. I'm done. My sister, Elia, stood beside me. Still, her hands clenched around the straps of her backpack. She didn't ask why, didn't try to fight it. She already knew. I looked past him, hoping, just for a second, that someone else might step in. No one did. Where are we supposed to go? I asked. He shrugged. Not cold. Not angry. Just finished. That's not my problem anymore. And that was it. No warning. No plan. No second chance. We packed what we could. 2 backpacks. 1 duffel. Clothes. A few papers. Whatever we could carry. The door closed behind us with a soft click. And just like that, we were out. We walked. Not because we knew where to go, but because standing still made it worse. Elliot didn't speak for a while. Then, do you have a plan? She asked quietly. I shook my head. Not yet. We spent the first night near a tree line just outside town. Not a real shelter. Just a break in the wind. The ground was uneven. Cold. We didn't sleep much. Every sound felt close. Every rustle too loud. By morning, reality had settled in. We counted our money. $43. That's it? Elia asked. That's it. She nodded slowly. No panic. No complaint. That was her way. Okay, she said. Then we just need something that lasts. Not temporary. That word didn't fit anymore. We spent the next day moving deeper away from town. Because staying close didn't help. Too many eyes. Too many questions. We followed a narrow trail through the trees. At first, it didn't seem like it led anywhere. Just overgrown brush. Faded paths. But the further we walked, the quieter it got, until all we could hear was water. Faint at first. Then clearer. Elia stopped. Do you hear that? I nodded. We followed the sound. Down a slight slope. Through thicker trees. And then, we saw it. The hollow. It opened up suddenly. A dip in the land, surrounded by trees on all sides. At the bottom, a small stone structure, barely visible at first, blending into the earth around it. Water flowed steadily from a pipe built into the stone, spilling into a shallow basin before running off into a narrow stream. What is that? Elia asked. I stepped closer. A springhouse, I said. She looked at me. You sure? I nodded slowly. Old ones were built like this. To keep water cool. Store things. She looked back at it. The stone walls were worn but solid. The roof was partially covered in moss. The wooden door hung slightly crooked. It didn't look abandoned in a dramatic way. It looked forgotten. Elia hesitated. You're not thinking. I was already walking toward it. This isn't a house, she said, following reluctantly. It's barely a building. I pushed the door. It creaked. Then opened. Inside. Cool air. Stone. Darkness. Shelves lined the walls. Empty. Damp. The sound of water echoed softly through the space. It's cold, Elia said. Yeah. I stepped further in. The floor was solid. The walls. Unshaken. The structure wasn't falling apart. It was still holding. It's usable, I said. Elia let out a small breath. For what? I looked back at her. For staying. She shook her head slightly. It's the middle of nowhere. Exactly. She paused. Looked around again. The water. The structure. The trees. It's hidden, she admitted. That mattered. More than anything else right now. We stepped back outside. The hollow felt separate from everything else. Quiet. Still. Protected. Elia sat on a rock near the water. You're serious, she said. I nodded. We can't keep moving, I said. We need something stable. She looked at the spring. The water flowed steadily. Clear. Constant. We'd have water, she said. Yeah. She looked at the structure again. And shelter. Yeah. There was a long pause. Then, okay. That was it. Not excitement. Not confidence. Just acceptance. We didn't buy it. Didn't own it. But we took it. Because no one else had. That night, we didn't sleep in the open. We slept inside the Springhouse. The air was cold. The space small. But the walls held. And for the first time since we were kicked out, we weren't exposed. We had something, even if it wasn't much yet. And as the water continued to flow beside us, steady, unchanging, it felt like the first piece of something that could last. The first morning in the Springhouse didn't feel like relief. It felt like a decision. The cold woke us up before the light did. Stone didn't warm up the way wood did. It held the night inside it, kept it close, like it didn't want to let go. Elia sat up slowly, pulling her hoodie tighter around her arms. Her breath was faintly visible in the air. It's freezing. Yeah, I said, already looking around. Not at everything. Just the next problem. That was the rule now. Not everything. Just the next thing. Door, I said. She followed my gaze. The wooden door hummed slightly off-center, leaving a thin gap along the edge where cold air slipped in constantly. Door, she repeated. We didn't have tools. Not real ones. So we improvised. Outside, near the edge of the hollow, we found fallen branches. Some straight, some usable. We broke them down by hand, dragged them back. Using pieces of wood and pressure, we adjusted the door frame, forced it tighter, closed the gap as much as we could. It didn't seal perfectly, but it reduced the draft. That night, it made a difference. The second problem, the floor. Damp, cold, unforgiving. Sleeping directly on it wasn't sustainable. So we built a layer. Leaves first, dry ones, gathered from higher ground where the moisture hadn't reached. Then small branches. Then pieces of old wood we found near the stream. We stacked it carefully, creating distance between us and the stone. It wasn't comfortable, but it was better, and better was enough. By the end of the first week, the Springhouse had changed. Not visually, not in a way anyone else would notice, but in function. It held, and that meant we could stay. Water wasn't a problem. That was the one thing we didn't have to fight for. The spring flowed constantly. Clear, cold, reliable. We didn't have to boil it. Didn't have to search. It was just there. That alone changed everything. Food was harder. Our money was dropping. Slow, then faster. We stretched it. Bought the cheapest things we could from a small store miles away. But we knew that wouldn't last. So we adapted. The hollow gave us more than shelter. It gave us resources. We found berries along the edges. Small, seasonal, not enough alone, but something. We started fishing in the narrow stream where the water ran out. At first, nothing. Then, a small catch. Then another. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. That's when everything shifted. Because now, we weren't just surviving on what we had. We were using what was around us. Each day started to take shape. Morning, check structure. Reinforce weak spots. Midday, gather. Fish. Search. Evening, prepare. Plan. Rest. The Springhouse slowly became more than a shelter. We cleared space inside. One side for sleeping, one side for storage. We built simple shelving using branches and flat stones. Nothing permanent, but organized. That mattered. Elia noticed it first. It feels different, she said one evening. I looked around. She was right. It didn't feel temporary anymore. It felt ours. By the second month, the hollow wasn't just where we stayed. It was where we lived. We knew the land, the paths, the rhythm of the place. We knew when the light hit the water just right, when the air shifted, when the animals moved. It wasn't random anymore. It was understood. Then, we found something else. It started with the temperature. The inside of the Springhouse stayed cold, even when the days got warmer. Colder than outside. Consistent. Elia pointed it out. It's like a natural fridge. I looked at the stone walls. The water. The airflow. She was right. That's what it was built for, I said. To store. To preserve. That changed everything. Because now, the Springhouse wasn't just shelter. It was function. We started small. We kept fish longer. Stored berries. Saved what we could instead of using everything immediately. Then, we thought bigger. Not just for us. For others. The nearest road wasn't close. But it wasn't unreachable either. And people passed through. Hikers. Occasionally. Rare. But not impossible. We tested it. Elia suggested it first. What if we offer something? Like what? Cold water. Food. Something simple. It made sense. Not big. Not ambitious. Just useful. We cleared a small area outside the Springhouse. Made it visible from the path. Then, we made a sign. A flat piece of wood. Carved carefully. Spring water, fresh food. It wasn't perfect, but it was clear. The first day, no one came. The second, someone passed. Looked. Kept walking. The third, a hiker stopped. He looked at the sign, then at us. This yours? He asked. I nodded. He stepped closer. Looked at the water. Safe. Yeah. He drank. Then smiled. That's good. He left money. Not a lot, but enough. And that changed everything. Because now, The Springhouse had value. Not just to us. To others. From that point on, we built around that. We improved the area. Made it easier to reach. Kept things clean. Reliable. Didn't overpromise. Just delivered. Cold water. Fresh food. Simple. By the third month, more people stopped. Not many. But steady. Word spread. Quietly. There's a place in the hollow. Fresh water. Real food. We didn't chase attention. We focused on consistency. And that's what made it grow. By the fourth month, we weren't just surviving. We were stable. The small income added up. Enough to buy better tools. Better supplies. We improved the structure. Reinforced parts of the roof. Strengthened the door properly. The Springhouse, once forgotten, now stood solid. Reliable. Intentional. And then, everything shifted. It started with a man. He didn't look like the others. Cleaner. More observant. He didn't rush. Didn't just pass through. He stayed. Looked at everything. The structure. The water. The setup. You built this, he asked. Yeah, I said. He nodded slowly. This used to be a storage Springhouse, he said. A long time ago. I nodded. We're using it again. He smiled slightly. I can see that. He looked around again. You know what this is, he asked. I didn't answer. It's sustainable, he said. Water source. Natural cooling. Location. The words landed slowly. Because we hadn't thought about it like that. Not fully. We've been looking for places like this, he continued. Natural setups. Low cost. High potential. Elia stepped beside me. For what? She asked. He glanced at her. Expansion, he said. Supply points. Small-scale distribution. Something that grows without losing what it is. I looked back at the Springhouse. The stone. The water. The space we built. Then back at him. We're not leaving it, I said. He shook his head. I'm not asking you to. A pause. I'm asking to work with you. Not take. Work. The hollow stayed quiet around us. The water continued to flow. Steady. Unchanging. But everything had changed. Because the place we found, by accident, by necessity, had become something else. Something real. Elia looked at me. What do you think? She asked. I took a slow breath. We had nothing. Then we had this. And now, we had auctions. We don't rush it, I said. She nodded. The man smiled. That's smart. He handed us a card. Then left. No pressure. No urgency. Just possibility. The sun dropped behind the trees. Light filtered through the hollow. Soft. Quiet. The Springhouse stood behind us. Same stone. Same water. But not the same place. And we weren't the same people either. Because the ones who were kicked out with nothing now stood in front of something they built. Something that didn't just keep them alive, but gave them a future.